You want a man who can go for hours eating you out and makes you swear, who's as kinky as you are and can see past the innocent face and see you for the real you. What's up guys, this is Alejandro from Playing with Fire, and we have quite the special video for you today. So in the past we've done these text breakdowns where we've taken my text game, analyzed it, and looked for the lessons, or we've taken another person's text game, looked at the failure, and saw what you can kind of learn from that. But what we have never done is combine those two until today. So in this video what we're going to do is we're going to take an interaction from a guy who's in our Playing with Fire mastermind. And he was texting a girl on his own on Tinder, and the whole thing was sinking like the Titanic. He was investing hard, chasing her, double texting, and she was just giving him one-word answers. Then he posted in the mastermind, and we came in and started guiding him along the way to turn the whole thing around. And eventually we wound up getting her investing in the conversation, double, triple texting him, and ultimately banging him. So we're going to show you in this video exactly how you can go from, having shit go complete downhill and how you can turn it around through good text game. So without further ado, let's crack into the screenshots. He opens her with the classic "Hey trouble." I wonder where he got that one from. And she doesn't respond. So he double texts her, "You look like the right mix of fun and trouble." And she writes back, "Hey, I was going to respond with something witty to that first one. Sorry, I forgot." And he follows up with, "Not even going to deny being trouble, huh?" Strategically using the word trouble in every single sentence. She says, "Probably not, LOL." He responds with, "Yeah, I could see in your eyes." And he doesn't get a response. Then he double texts her, and the worst text or word goes to ... She just writes back, "Hey, I'm sorry." He uses a takeaway here, but he uses it incorrectly because this takeaway should only be used when the girl's actually invested in the conversation. I would know because this is one of mine. "If you want me to stop trying, I can." She just writes back, "Sorry, I just don't get on often." For sure. "How are you, question mark." Here he uses another line that I have used in the past, but it's a little bit out of context here. "Fucking amazing, exclamation point. Just had a wild vacation. Shoot me your number before you disappear." Now this is a bad text because he's trying to number close her on negative compliance. It's like if you're a salesman and you're trying to sell to someone and they just tell you that they hate the color that you showed them, and you go, "All right, cool. So here's the contract." You're trying to close on negative compliance is never a good move. And of course, she doesn't respond. So then he double texts her a few days later, "Yo, sexy," and she just writes, "That's me." So now she's investing even less, giving him 2- and 1-word answers. She saw that he tried to close on negative compliance. The conversation has been boring so far, so she's really just showing less and less interest. He sends her a very long text. "I don't usually match with good, innocent girls like you. You seem super sweet, but I tend to match with more adventurous girls with a wild side." It's not a bad text per se, but it's horribly out of context here and makes absolutely no sense. She just writes back LMAO, kind of just like laughing at him a little bit. And he writes, "Oh, question mark, how adventurous are you 1 to 10? It's like kind of trying to build rapport where there is none. It's like two people are across the table and both sitting there and they both hate each other, and one person's like, yo, so yeah, let's be friends, blah, 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 blah. It's like the vibe is just so off, there's just a mismatch in the investment and interest level. She responds, "Full 10, you'd be surprised." He says, "How so, question mark." That's probably the first good text I've seen so far, because that kind of gets her to invest in the conversation, gets her to start, opening up. She says, "Only one way to find out." So here she's actually hinting at the meat a little bit, but it's also kind of like she's throwing a bone and she's seeing if he's going to bite on it, in a sense. He says, "I'm just hoping to find out that you have one of my weaknesses." Kind of, again, using some lines that he sees in the mastermind, but they're kind of out of context. She says, "Well, I'm hot and blonde, but that's relatively short, so there's that." Or one of these emojis. And he writes back, "Well, there is one benefit to you being short." She says, "What's that?" And he says, "Are you sure it's a bit R-rated?" So this is actually where we come in. I believe that is the first text where we come in. It was either this one or the last one. And she says, "What's that?" And he responds, or we respond, "Are you sure it's a bit R-rated?" So what's happening here? Now we're actually getting her to start investing in the conversation. We're not just randomly throwing lines out, right? We're building her intrigue a little bit. "Why? Wow, not just PG-13, hit me," she says. And then he says, or we say, "Then I can throw you around and dominate you easier." So we take the sexual route. And the reason we do that is because the banter route is just going rapidly nowhere. She just seems bored with the convo. It's probably what she's been getting from every guy. So, some gamey lines. So we're taking it in a sexual route, but we're not going like full hardcore, like pedal to the metal, like, "Yo, girl, I'm gonna fuck the shit out of you." We're kind of building the intrigue and slowly building up to it. Similar to the way 50 Shades of Grey does. So she says, "Wow, not just PG-13 hit me," and we say, "Then I can throw you around, dominate you easier." She says, "Seems pretty mild for R-rated, but okay." So this is actually quite a big hint. She's basically communicating that she's down with the kinky shit. So we say, "Don't tempt me, I'd have to discipline you," and she says, "Don't threaten me with a good time." So here we're kind of building that intrigue. Now it's about even. We're giving her one sentence answers, she's giving us one sentence answers. There's no more of this one word text. So then we say, actually I think this line was him. I think he got a little excited and did one of his own lines. "I bend you over my lap with a cloth wrapped around your mouth, with your hair gripped by my one hand and a palette in the other, and your hands handcuffed behind you." Now, the message in the text isn't bad. We're kind of going more sexual now because she communicated that she's down with the kinky shit, but we would have probably worded this much better where it sounded a lot more smooth and a lot more like sexy, let's just say. She says, "What for?" And this is definitely one of our lines. "Just because I felt like it." So in this point she responds, "Oh, well, in that case." And then here we do a takeaway. Again, so far she's been giving us a little bit more, but it's not that much. So if we just keep sexting to her, it's like we're getting her turned on a little bit. She might even go home and masturbate if our sexting is really good, but we're not going to get the meat. We need to do a little bit of a takeaway now. And we say, "It's okay if you can't handle it." She responds with, "That just sounds like a challenge." And we do another takeaway. "You talk a big game about handling it. I wouldn't worry." So we're playfully calling her out for her talking a big game, basically preempting the whole, like farther down the line, she's like, "Sorry, I don't meet like random people." Like, we're basically saying, "Hey, you talk a big game. Hope you can back it up." We're doing it in a way where she can't take offense because we ended it with, "I wouldn't worry." And she, for the first time, we get a double text from her. She says, "Nah, because my first thought was, that's cute." And then she says, "Can you handle it?" So this girl is really trying to hold on to her frame, and she's trying to flip it around at us. We say, "You're confident for a little girl. I'm intrigued." Again, it's a little bit of a neg, but it's a neg that she can't take offense to because she is, after all, admitted to being a short girl. So we're just kind of saying, taking short to little, which has a little bit of a double meaning. And then we ended with, "I'm intrigued." So we ended in a positive way. So again, it's like a little bit of a push, but then a pull at the end. She says, "I get that a lot." And then we say, "What else do you get?" And then here she goes back to her usual shit and just gives us "what I want." Again, not a text we desire, but this girl is really holding on to her frame and is really, really far from sold. She's probably really doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't meet that many guys on Tinder. She's probably just there to kind of kill time and bullshit a lot. So this girl's going to be harder. We say, "Didn't realize you've attracted mostly pussy men so far." So that's the perfect response to her kind of like her little bit of like a too cool for school text. And we're basically communicating, well, you get what you want because you only go for pussies. Right? So taking her frame and flipping around on her again. She says, "Oh, question mark," copying one of our texts from earlier. And we say, "Yeah, you demonstrate similar characteristics as someone who meets below par guys. No offense, smiley face." So again, what we're doing is we're doing a big push. We're saying, you mostly meet pussy guys, like you mostly meet guys that you don't attract. no offense, smiley face. So that's a little bit of like a push, but then she can't get offended because we threw in a no offense and a smiley face. And it's also a truism because pretty much every girl on Tinder has met guys that she's not satisfied with, otherwise she probably wouldn't be on Tinder. And she says, I mean, you're not entirely wrong, but what makes you think that? So we did basically a cold read, and it's a cold read that's really going to be true for a lot of girls, so it's one that we're fairly confident is going to work, and she does respond to it positively. And basically what we're doing here is we're showing that this guy is completely different than all the other guys that she's texting, which believe me, he doesn't, and that he's gonna be, if she meets up with him, it's gonna be a completely different experience. So this is not apples and apples, it's apples and fucking Lamborghinis. And we say, the way you talk, your eyes, the way you position yourself in your pictures, subconsciously or consciously. Again, this is a text that you can literally copy and paste verbatim if the context is right, because basically it's a truism. It's like, no one can disagree with that. It's like saying the sky's blue, but it's a little bit more clever than that. And she says, what about those things makes you think that? So notice how she's just asking question after question. Now she's legitimately intrigued in the conversation. She's still a little bit too cool for school, but she's like intrigued now. So we say, tell me first, am I right or am I right, question mark. Now we're doing a little bit of a takeaway. We're not just gonna keep giving her what she wants. We're gonna give and then we're gonna take, give and take. So by give and take, we mean investment. And she says the large majority of them, LMAO, yes. So she finally admitted that we're correct and we're reading her correctly. And then we say, it all makes sense now. Kind of a little bit of a cryptic, low investment text. She says, you planning on explaining, question mark. And again, we don't want to just jump on the bait like the girl's like, tell me this, and we're like, yeah, sure, blah, 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 blah. We want to make her chase the answer, chase the truth. So we say, you know exactly what I'm going to tell you. And she says, let's hear it anyway. We say positive, question mark. Really getting her to like really chase the answer. Like it's not real life. We can't get her to chase like this guy, I almost said his name, in real life because they're not in front of him, but we can get him to chase something that he knows or she thinks he knows. And she says definitely, spelled with a LT at the end. And so, millennials. So we say, here goes. You're a girl who is quite feminine and submissive, does not tolerate a pussy man. You test a man to make sure he's as dominant as he claims to be. You want a man who can take control and is always decisive and knows exactly what to do. You want a man who can dominate you in bed, choke you, pull your hair, spank you, face fuck you till you pass out. I'd slap you to wake you back up, and then the first thing you'd feel is my dick in your mouth. And then parentheses, all this only if we have chemistry, a little bit of a takeaway, but it doesn't mean you being at the giving end all the time. You want a man who can go for hours eating you out and makes you swerve, who's as kinky as you are and can see past the innocent face and see you for the real you. Now this is also a great text to send to basically any chick who is submissive and who has shown a willingness to engage in sex talk, right? You wouldn't want to send this to a girl who, is like really adverse to sexting, but this girl has clearly shown through her texting that she's a little bit of a brat, she's submissive, she's into kinky shit, so this text is just perfect here. And what it does is shows that one, he is dominant, but two, he also understands about that women, usually typically get the short end of the stick when sex is involved, and usually like they never come, so he's showing he understands that and is one of the guys who gets it. But he's also doing a bit of a takeaway saying, but I'm not guaranteeing this experience. This will only happen if I choose to, if we have chemistry. So that's the third part of this. And the fourth part is the fact that he can understand what she wants. She's a petite girl, so a lot of guys probably treat her like, oh, you're so cute, like a little puppy, like, does this hurt, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, she probably enjoys being, well, actually, she definitely does, being tossed around and being dominated. So we are saying that we get that, and so you don't have to worry about, this fucking bad sex that you've been having for a long time. Accomplishing 5 things in one text. And she double texts here, close, exclamation point. We're spot on, but she doesn't want to just admit that. I've never heard I have an innocent face before. And then we say, who do you believe? She says, that's an excellent question. We respond with, She says, question mark. And then we say, you know the answer to it. So here we gave her a lot, but now it's time to pull back a little bit and make her chase. So again, the concept of push-pull, giving investment, but then, and accomplishing something with that investment value, demonstrating value, but then pulling back and getting her to invest. Because if you just keep giving her shit, she will have no reason to meet up with you because you gave her everything already. And we say, you know the answer to it. And then here we get a double text that is a day apart. So she says, well, I must have truly improved my resting bitch face, I suppose. And we know that she's kind of invested at this point, so we tell him to not respond to that. And she double texts a day later, what are you up to today? So this is like a clear fucking turn around the conversation, because now she is actually texting him and asking about his logistics. It's not him trying to close her ignoring him. It's her being ignored and her being like, what are you up to today? It's a classic text that you send when you don't know what to say, but you want that person and you're showing interest. He says, hanging out on my romantic patio with a glass of wine, and you. So we tell him not to jump on the meat, not to be like, nothing, let's hang out, kind of play coy. And she says, jealous. I'm at work all day. What makes this patio so romantic? And here he actually goes with, I believe, one of his own texts and says, you mean besides the roses I've laid out and the harpist I hired? It's not bad, but we would have gone with something a little bit more suave. She says, yeah, besides that bit. And then he says, another one of his texts, again, not bad, but would have gone with something a little bit more succinct. My presence, of course, tucks and handcuffs may or may not be included. I mean, I like that, it's witty, and, we're, again, bringing it back to sex with the handcuffs. She says, well, the tux is non-negotiable, LOL. Now we come in, because this is definitely one of our texts, what will you wear, question mark. So basically we're getting now her to imagine the meetup. Like in her mind, what will you wear? Now she's imagining the meetup, but we're not actually inviting her to meet up. We're just putting that thought in her head. So she actually tries to close him. And she says, dealer's choice. So we say, you'll wear a short black satin dress that shows off your smooth legs and hints at the seductive shape of your ass. She responds with, I have plenty of those, devil face. And we say, perfect, shoot me your number. So here's how you number close correctly. We're number closing on a positive, on an investment, not on her not giving a shit. This is when you want to number close. It's like when you're getting compliance, when things are going well, that's when you start to go for the close. And she says tempting. So we tell him to completely ignore her and not respond to this, because this is her just being a brat, and it works. Sometimes really the best course of action when you get a shit test or bad behavior is no action. And then she double texts him a few hours later with her phone number. We basically called her bluff. He texts her a little bit later, hey, it's blank from the thing, and she just says hi, one word answer. Again, we keep snapping her out of this too cool for school frame, but then she kind of keeps going back into it. We say, and we call her out on this, love the enthusiasm. Can never be afraid to call a girl out, it always has to be in a non-butthurt, playful way. But sometimes you need to call a girl out. Like here, she gave a lame one-word answer, so we're calling her out. Love the enthusiasm. She says, tired, long day at work. And we follow up with, one of my famous massages will heal you right up. Again, we're hinting at the meat, but we're not actually going for it. She says, and this week it might take more than one, LOL. And we say, as long as you're a good girl, you shall receive. She says, I'm not a fan of being good. I'll just pay a professional. Again, back to the bratty behavior. She's investing, and then like her old self just kicks in, and she's like, I'll just pay a professional. And then we tell him again, ignore her, call her bluff. This is the pattern. Every time we get one of these texts from her, we're kind of calling her bluff and just ignoring her. And this works because at this point, she's invested. Through that long text we send her, through all the takeaways we did, through all the cold reading, we've basically gotten her to the point where she's really intrigued, so she's not going to want to let this one go. And she double texts, you have Snap, and he writes back his Snap, and she writes, okay. Then I think she texts him, and he ignores her on Snap, and then she double texts again, you're a terrible texter. So what's happening here? Now she's really chasing him. She's double texting, and he's the one that's like, meh, I'll take it or leave it. And he says, yeah, anyway, what are your plans this week? Work all day, all night? Question mark. So what we're doing here, we're not apologizing for his poor texting. She was a shitty texter in the beginning of interaction. He doesn't owe her anything. So we're just like, yeah, cool. And then we're almost like going for the meet, but we're calling her out before she can say, I'm busy. Like, we're like, yeah, so what are you doing this week? Just working all day? Like, the excuse that she's likely to use, we're kind of putting it out there and using it before she can. And she says, we're right. She says, basically, I've got today off and Sunday, but I'll be driving all day Sunday. Now we go for the meet. Let's meet tonight then, period. Feel spontaneous, question mark. So we've gotten her invested. She's been chasing him. Now it's time to close this shit. We got her to imagine the meet. Yeah, she knows what she's going to wear, blah, blah, blah. We kind of used her excuse before she could. Time to close this. And she says, always do. He says, perfect. Let's split a bottle of wine on my romantic patio. And again, she tries a little bit of a shit test. That's not very spontaneous at all. And so we kind of call her out on it. Hold your enthusiasm, exclamation point. I still have to see if you're cool before anything spontaneous happens. So we kind of take her shit test and flip it around on her, basically saying like, whoa, like, don't get too excited now. Like, I have to meet you and approve of you before anything happens. So I'm the decider, you're not the decider. And this works really well because she says, fair enough, I'm pretty sure it's a good rule of thumb to never meet a stranger at the house though. So here she's giving a legit objection. She doesn't want to meet him at his house. And we need to handle this objection. But we need to get to the bottom. What is the root concern? Is it that she has a bad experience, or is that she's just nervous meeting strangers at their place, or is it that she's worried that's going to mean she's a slut? What is that real reason behind this? So usually it's stranger danger, so we kind of throw it out there. And he says, stranger danger, I presume. And she says, oh, definitely. So we identified her real underlying concern. Now it's time to address it. No worries, I gave up killing for Lent this year, smiley face. So basically, we're communicating in a really joking way. Don't worry, you're good. Like, you're safe with me. And this will work quite often, believe it or not. And the girl says, oh, thank God. So then he does a little bit of a pull back again and says, I'm a little worried too. You might be a 300-pound black guy. We can meet outside for a few minutes first. No expectations. So again, it's a takeaway, but it's also making it seem like it's his idea, not her idea to meet in public. But it's not really meeting in public because he's meeting her right outside his building for a minute. All he has to do is look like his pictures and not have some kind of aneurysm when they meet, and he'll bring her inside. It's not like doing a public date. It's really just like giving the appearance of a public date, but you're still meeting her at your place, essentially. And she says, LMAO, you've seen a picture. What city are you in? So now she's getting into logistics. Good. He gives her the city and says, and you. She says her city. And then he says, perfect. That'll give me some time to pick up wine. Do you like red or white? So she hasn't explicitly agreed to this meet yet, but she's going into logistics, so it's safe to assume that she's interested. So we're taking a little bit of a risk here, but it's a risk that's worth taking. We're just assuming that at this point we've answered her objection and that she's 100% down. And so we're just going for like the close where we say like, do you like red or white? Like, you know, car salesman, like, perfect, we'll get you on board. Do you want the one with the extra window seats, or, you know, that kind of thing? And she says, white. I got some stuff I got to handle at home first though. So again, we're just assuming positive compliance, even though we're kind of getting neutral compliance. I know a great Chardonnay. Cool. I have some work to finish too. Again, the common theme is here is like, her excuses, we're using them as our own thing. So she's saying, well, I got some stuff to do at home. We're like, yeah, cool. I actually got to finish some work. How's 8:45 sound? That's how he ends that text. She says, I may have to push it. It's an hour drive. Then we go with what time are you thinking? And this is a really good way to go about here in this situation, because we're basically getting her to throw out her time. Like, we don't want to just keep throwing out times, and she's like, I don't know about this time, and she might go with something like, I'll have to let you know. We want her to be like, you know what, this time is perfect. She says, I'm not sure. I still have a shower, go see my grandmother. I think my Colorado trip may fall through on Sunday, so that's probably free too. And then Here he calls her and she doesn't pick up, and then she double texts, sorry, was with grandma, you can call again. He calls her again. So this was the right play here, calling her, getting her on the phone. She's on board, she's interested, but she's like not 100% sold yet. She's 90% of the way there, and that phone call is just an easy way to push it over the end. So he has a quick phone call with her. I wasn't there for the phone call, obviously, but a little bit of banter, and then going for the close, she agrees. And then he texts her, I'm running behind, about to leave for work. How far are you from his address? And she sends him his location. And then he says, actually, that works great. I got to hop in the shower when I get home too. Text me when you're on your way. She says, headed out now. And then it's cool. Call me when you're on my street so I can show you where to park. Again, another like, here, it's just all logistics. No need to play games. Just be very smooth and like, just make it as easy as possible for the girl. And then afterwards, she she texts him at 1:45 a.m., assuming this is after some things go down. And she says, home safe and sound. He says, good, tonight was fun. And she says, for sure. And then double texts him the next day, I'm all sorts of bruised. So I guess she really got her wish in terms of the kinky sex. So in conclusion, by now you see how important it is to have really good spot-on text game, especially when you're dealing with girls who are flaky and giving you shit responses. You can see how kind of the guy, when he was running his own text game, which was, you know, using the word trouble way too much and just making mistakes, she wasn't giving him shit and the whole thing was going downhill. Then we come in and we turn the whole thing around by building some intrigue, building up value, basically demonstrating that he's that confident, dominant sexual guy, but she can't have him just yet. We're showing her that there's a big carrot, pun intended, and then pulling back and making her chase after the carrot. And that's ultimately how we're able to get her to really start investing. And then, of course, she gives us some shit tests. We pull back, we call her out on it because we've already demonstrated so much value. Now she wants that value, so we can just safely not respond and get her a double text because she wants that fucking carrot. Hopefully you guys found this video valuable. Let me know by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, hitting every button known to man on my YouTube channel. And of course, if you're serious about taking your shit to the next level, really getting the kind of results that you see this guy get, make sure that you check out our online dating blueprint, where we're going to take you, like we did with him, from 0 to hero.